Welcome to the Fast Leader Podcast, where we uncover the leadership life hacks that help you to experience breakout performance faster and rocket to success. And now, here's your host, customer and employee engagement expert and certified emotional intelligence practitioner, Jim Rimbach.
Thanks, Kimberly. Okay, Fast Leader Legion. This show is one that's very, very special to me because I think we have the chance to meet with somebody who's really impacted the world with his work. He was born and raised in Ayer, Massachusetts, but really kind of grew up in boarding schools in a couple different places throughout the country. His name is Ned Hallowell, and he has ADHD and dyslexia. But Dr. Ned Hallowell sees them not as disorders, but rather as traits that can bestow enormous benefit. When those traits are managed well, they can help you get over the hump faster. But if they're managed poorly or not recognized at all, they can lead to disaster. Dr. Ned is a graduate of Harvard College, Tulane Medical School, and a Harvard residency and fellowship in adult and child psychology. Dr. Hallowell served on the faculty of the Harvard Medical School for 20 years until he retired from academia to devote his full profession time to seeing patients, writing books, and giving lectures and seminars. Dr. Ned has written numerous books, including his groundbreaking New York Times bestseller on ADD called Driven to Distraction, which initially brought attention deficit disorder to the general public. Dr. Ned's books have sold over 2 million copies. He's appeared on every major TV show, including Oprah, Good Morning America, The Today Show, CBS Morning Show, The View, Dr. Oz, Dr. Phil, 60 Minutes, and CNN, and now the Fast Leader Show. Woo woo! Dr. Ned is the founder of the Hallowell Centers with offices in Sudbury, Massachusetts, New York City, San Francisco, and Seattle. These centers specialize in the diagnosis and treatment of learning differences, especially ADHD and dyslexia, using a strength-based approach. Currently, Dr. Ned resides in Arlington, Massachusetts with his wife Sue and his dog Ziggy. But he also has 3 kids, Lucy, Jack, and Tucker. Dr. Ned, are you ready to help us get over the hump?
Absolutely.
That's awesome. All right, so I've given our listeners a brief introduction, but can you please tell us what your current passion is so that we can get to know you better?
Well, I love bringing ADHD and dyslexia to the world as strengths. You know, these are the people who have these traits are really the people who've made this country great. And if you have ADHD, it's sort of like you've got a Ferrari engine for a brain. You've got this way powerful creative mind, but you have bicycle brakes. And so I tell people I'm a brake specialist. I'll help you strengthen your brakes. And if you strengthen your brakes, you're going to become an absolute winner. You're going to go right to the top. Unfortunately, if you don't, well, that's the prison population. That's what's so interesting is, a Ferrari with no brakes crashes. Well, ADHD untrained, gets into all kinds of trouble. So I love my work, almost messianic about it because it's very high stakes. It's making or breaking people, and at any age. A child, my oldest patient was 96, and the treatment allowed him to write the book he'd wanted to write his entire life long.
Well, that's awesome. I had the opportunity to speak with somebody who had 2 sets of twins, and they both sets had problems with attention deficit, as well as some other varying things that may oftentimes go with that disorder. And she was actually a pediatrician, and she found herself really struggling with a lot of the information to help her own kids. And so she actually decided to leave her practice as a pediatrician and go back and retrain herself so that she can actually help her kids do better. Because what she's found is that many actually use the disorder as a crutch, and the medications that are therefore being provided to those people is being used as coping mechanisms instead of, like you had mentioned, strengths. So what would be really the key differences between the crutch and the strength and the movement?
I don't have any idea what this crutch model means. It's ridiculous. You have this condition, and it's a matter of learning to tap into your strengths and minimize the damage done by your weaknesses. I have no idea what she meant saying using it as a crutch. I don't know what that means.
Well, I think that's really part of the difference in the impact that you've made is that you don't see it that way at all. You're
Well, I don't know what it would mean. How does that manifest? How do you use it as a crutch? It makes no sense.
Well,
she'd have to sit down and explain to me what she means by that.
No, I think that's awesome. Thanks for
It
your
doesn't make any
focus.
sense.
Thanks for your focus on the strength side. That's an important piece. Now, without a doubt, we all have to seek inspiration, especially when we have that strengths-based focus. And oftentimes we lead to quotes and passages and things like that to help give us that inspiration. Is there something for you that kind of stands out as a favorite quote that kind of helps you continue to move forward? Can you share that with us, please?
Oh, so many, so many. I mean, I happen to believe in God. I'm an Episcopalian, and so God is love, and is the way I look at it. And so I'm really in the business of promoting love, promoting people understanding each other, seeing each other's best side instead of each other's worst side, drawing out the loving side of people. I mean, that's basically what I do as a doctor, not to mention as a person. So I suppose at my absolute core, I'm in the business of finding and promoting love, and to me that's God, and it saved my life, and I've seen it save many people's lives.
I think that's awesome. Thanks for sharing that with us. Now, with you yourself, having ADHD and dyslexia, and really even let's not even look at that. Let's just look at we all have humps to get over, and it doesn't matter if we have those things or not. Is there a time where you can remember that you've had to get over a hump and that really helped shape you into who you are today? Can you share that story with us?
Oh, so many times. Going back to the first grade when I'm sitting at a round table with other kids trying to learn to read, and I couldn't do it. It'd come to be my turn, and I couldn't sound out the words. And back then in the 1950s. They didn't have learning specialists. If you couldn't learn to read, your diagnosis was you were stupid and you were supposed to try harder. Well, I had this wonderful first grade teacher by the name of Mrs. Eldridge, and she knew there was more to kids who couldn't learn to read than being stupid. And what would she do? During reading period, she'd simply come down and sit down next to me, and she'd put her arm around me. And she was this very rotund woman, so it was a big hug that she would give me. And she would hug me in next to her. And as I would stammer and stutter, none of the other kids would laugh at me because I had the mafia sitting next to me, and as a result, I looked forward to reading period, even though I was the worst reader in the class. By the end of the year, I was still the worst reader in the class, but I was a very enthusiastic student of reading, thanks to that hug. To this day, I'm a painfully slow reader. That's what dyslexia does. But I did learn to read, and I, in fact, majored in English at Harvard College and graduated with high honors, and now I make part of my living writing books. So that would never have happened had it not been for that marvelous first grade teacher who was sort of an angel from heaven.
Oh, without a doubt. So I wanted to make a shout out to all the Miss Eldridges in the world because we need you and more of you. Thanks so much.
Do we ever?
Absolutely. Thanks for sharing that with us. Is there for you, like you were saying, is that you were still the slow reader and you were young, and you had shared with me that you've spent a lot of time in boarding schools, and we all know that that can also be a very difficult place because many boarding schools have a higher requirement in regards to education and their standards are concerned. Is there, going through all of that and being able to continue to move forward and having so much success that you've had, is there a piece of advice that you would actually give to our listeners?
Well, one of the most important ones is never worry alone. You'll encounter obstacles and you'll be inclined to sort of hunker down and try to take care of it. Don't do that. Talk to somebody. Obviously, you want to pick that person carefully, but when you worry with someone, you start solving problems. When you worry alone, you often get depressed. So never worry alone is really good advice.
That is great advice. I think a lot of times we do sit in isolation, and that almost makes the worry more intensive. I know you've had the initial book, and then you have written several others since then. But
20 others.
20 others.
Yeah.
Thanks. I hope that keeps coming. And I know we're going to have a gift for our Fast Leader Legion here in a minute. But first, before we do that, I would like to see if you could share with me what is your current passion with the work that you're doing and how that really drives you.
My passion is to bring these conditions, ADHD and dyslexia, to the public in a way where they understand the strengths inherent in them and not just look at the downside. If you manage these conditions properly, they become major assets that can drive you to tremendous success.
Yeah, and you shared that with us earlier, and I appreciate that. Is there like one or two things that you see as pretty common that folks can be able to be, say, aware of or be able to take advantage of to help them do just that?
Mostly just to understand that the condition need not hold you back. Then you need to learn about it. It's not a soundbite thing, Jim. I know you want me to give you sound bites and one or two things, but really understanding these goes beyond a soundbite. And that's why I write a book instead of writing a sentence. But go to my book, Delivered from Distraction or Driven to Distraction, and you'll learn a lot about the kind of mind that we call so misleadingly ADHD. It's not a deficit. And it's really, in my opinion, not a disorder, but rather a trait. But I can't boil it into a soundbite. And it sort of annoys me the way people want to do that. If I could, I'd write a sentence. I wouldn't write a book. We live in an age that really pushes superficial thinking, really pushes bullets and sound bites, and really resists going into the depth that you need to go into if you're going to understand anything in any degree of subtlety. And it's something that I resist.
No, and I appreciate that. I mean, you have the experience, and that's what we want to tap into. And I think that's important because you bring out one key factor about the Fast Leader Show is that oftentimes we do talk about, the sound bites and pieces like that as far as that's what it means to go fast. But that is not true. In fact, to go faster, you need to do things correctly. So I do want to get down to what's correct. And your response definitely helped us a ton. And so that also leaves a...
Remember, if you're going fast, you can't go deep. And you have to pick one or the other, speed or depth. Okay. Going fast, you can't go deep. And I think we live in an age that puts such a premium on speed that we often sacrifice depth.
And that's a great point. And so for myself, I have found that when I do go deep with time, it allows me to go faster because I won't repeat.
No. Once you go deep, you gain the knowledge that can speed your progress tremendously. Absolutely.
And that's exactly what we try to actually point out here on the Fast Leader Show is that you got to get the depth. You got to get the understanding. You can learn from experiences from others. And that in itself will help you move onward and upward faster. It's to leverage those things. And you have given us the opportunity to learn a little bit more, like you talked about. It's why you don't do bites, you do books. And I love that. I'm going to use that. That is a sound bite. You've given us the opportunity to download the introduction to your brand new book, Driven to Distraction at Work. Now, what was the inspiration behind that particular title?
It's we live in an age of distraction. So this book is not about ADHD per se, but it's about the highly distracting environment that most people work in. And I talk about different patterns of distraction, different ways in which people allow themselves to lose focus. And then I give remedies as to what to do about it based on each pattern.
Well, I'm looking forward to get that myself because I definitely need it. All right, now here we go, listeners. It's time for the rapid part of our show, and that's the Hump Day Hoedown. Okay, Dr. Ned, the Hump Day Hoedown is the part of our show where you give us good insights fast. So I'm going to ask you several questions, and your job is to give us robust yet rapid responses that are going to help us move onward and upward faster. Dr. Ned, are you ready to hoe down?
I'm ready.
All right. So what do you think is holding you back from being a better leader today?
I need more knowledge. I'm always needing more knowledge. And as much as I know, and I'm 65 years old, and I like to think I know a lot, I always need more knowledge. The question is where to find it and which knowledge to trust. So I'm endlessly curious, always seeking for that additional insight that will allow me to be more effective.
So what is the best leadership advice you have ever received?
To hire people who are smarter than you are. In other words, not be threatened by people who are more talented than you are. I think the great leader is the leader who gives credit to others who doesn't insist upon being the shiniest star, but rather sees it as his or her role to promote the talents of other people. So that's the best advice I ever got, to promote others, not promote yourself.
What is one of your secrets that you believe contributes to your success?
My ability to connect with other people. I think connection is what folks are starved for. They don't even know it. But we live in a paradoxical world where we're super connected electronically, but underconnected interpersonally. And I think a lot of folks in the workplaces are starved for that interpersonal connection, what I call that human moment, instead of a series of electronic moments. And when they get that, their productivity just soars. When they don't have it, it's like a vitamin deficiency. I call it vitamin connect, the other vitamin C. And a lot of people are suffering from a vitamin connect deficiency.
Oh, that's so true. Now, I know with all of your knowledge and skill that you have and yet to obtain on your quest, is there a particular book or two that kind of stands out that kind of is a go-to book that you would recommend for our listeners?
The Bible. I hate to say that, but it's a great go-to book, and if you just have one book, that's a good one. The collected works of Shakespeare, that would be another one. I know these are not on the business bestseller list, but I think the most powerful wisdom is the most ancient wisdom, and we need to remind ourselves of it. Whether it's the power of love or the power of connection or the power of knowledge. The Bible, Shakespeare, those are good sources to turn to.
No, I think that's awesome. What we'll do is we'll put links to that and other pieces of information, including the link to Dr. Ned's download, on our show notes page, which you're going to find at going to fastleader.net/Ned Hallowell. Okay, Dr. Hallowell, this is my last Hump Day Hoedown question. Imagine you were given the opportunity to go back to the age of 25, and you have been given the opportunity to take your knowledge and skill back with you. But you can't take everything. You can only choose one thing. So what would you take back with you and why?
My ability to connect. That would be the thing that I would take, because that to me is what people need most in terms of motivating them and bringing out their best. So I would go back with that ability to connect. And I'd also bring back my knowledge that that's what matters most, because a lot of 25-year-olds don't get that. They think they've got to be the smartest person in the room. And often they are the smartest person in the room, but they make everyone dislike them because they're so bad at connecting.
Oh, I think that's great advice. It was an honor to spend time with you today. Can you please share with the Fast Leader listeners how they can connect with you?
Oh, sure. Just go to my website, drhallowell.com. And you're doing a great service with this show. I love the energy you bring to it. I love the passion you bring to it. It's very clear you're passionate about this, and this world needs more passionate people like you.
Oh, I appreciate that. Dr. Ned, thank you for sharing your knowledge and wisdom. The Fast Leader Legion honors you and thanks you for helping us get over the hump. Woo-hoo! Thank you for joining me on the Fast Leader Show today. For recaps, links from every show, special offers, and access to download and subscribe, if you haven't already, head on over to fastleader.net so we can help you move onward and upward faster.